Huge controversy has erupted over the weekend after we learned that the owner of a Florida gun store where Orlando anti-gay mass shooter Omar Mateen did not ultimately buy his firearms for his heinous act of terrorism has said he actually Mateen showed up, wanted to buy body armor as well as ammunition. He was turned down by the gun store owner, Robert Abell, who ultimately notified the FBI. And now the big blowup is the FBI acted inappropriately. They didn't act. And I said, well, we have to really think through this and see whether there's a real criticism here of the FBI or not. So as we now understand it, Robert Abell is a co-owner of Lotus Gunworks in Jensen Beach, Florida. And he told ABC News that a man went into his store about 5 or 6 weeks ago and asked some really specific questions about high-end body armor, which of course the store didn't carry. The level body armor that Omar Mateen was asking for is not carried by most gun stores. That's the reality. After he was told by his associates that they don't carry that, the man, now understood to be Omar Mateen, made a phone call in a foreign language, hung up, and then asked about, okay, well, what about buying bulk ammunition? Abell said that a member of his staff thought the questions were odd, made him uncomfortable, so they turned away Omar Mateen. And Abell, thinking that the man was, quote, very suspicious, called the FBI office in West Palm Beach and reported the incident. Now, of course, they didn't have the guy's name. No sale was made. No background check was run. Didn't have the guy's name. The surveillance footage they had was grainy and reportedly not good enough to actually identify Omar Mateen. The FBI, as far as we know, never visited the store or investigated any further. When the news broke of the shooting, Robert Abell said, I am convinced that is the guy who showed up, remembering the individual. So the criticism is, what the hell is going on at the FBI? They get a phone call that this guy's there. He's asking these weird questions, and they don't investigate. That is a normal reaction. But we have to remember, they have no name whatsoever. The surveillance footage was not good enough to identify the individual. And in addition to that, by the time the FBI actually would have followed up, it seems, or by the time of the shooting, the surveillance footage had been overwritten. Most security surveillance systems only keep recordings for, 2, 3, 7 days at the most, and they overwrite each other. They don't have unlimited storage. So is the criticism, and there are many criticisms that could be made about the FBI, including sort of lack of inter-office discussion and information sharing. We've talked about that before, many criticisms. I don't know that there is a fair criticism here. The gun store owner certainly did the right thing. Suspicious, I'm going to report it. With no name or surveillance footage, what can you really expect the FBI to do? I don't know. Send a sketch artist, maybe?
Yeah, it depends on, I don't know what kind of, how often these calls are made to the FBI, right?
Fair enough.
Okay. But what perhaps might have been the cautious thing to do is say, okay, well, this happened at this store in or near Orlando. Okay, who is it in this area that we are aware of that this might have been? And they have information like that. And on top of that, this guy was already known to the FBI.
Well, that's where you really get into it, which is if you did the analysis Lewis is suggesting, you could say, who in this area have we interviewed that matches this description? Because certainly you could have said, well, he looked somewhere between 25 and 35, for example. And here's a general description. Now, it's possible that wouldn't limit it drastically. It's possible that there are hundreds of individuals that could match that criteria. I don't know. I am not one to haphazardly, in a knee-jerk reaction, defend or criticize agencies, but it really doesn't seem that the FBI could have done much with this information.
Maybe not. Yeah. In this particular instance, I'm not going to criticize them for it. Generally, do I think they're incompetent in the first place to overall?
Absolutely,
yes,
as you do with everybody.
Of
Yeah,
course.
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not be confused. No question. That is Lewis's opinion.